Picture this. You're 74 years old. You did everything right. You saved for 30 years. You never touched your 401. You watched it grow into $900,000, and you felt proud every time you checked the balance. Then one January morning, a letter shows up. The IRS is telling you that you have to take money out of that account this year. Not because you want to, not because you need it, because the law says so. And when you pull that money out, it gets taxed like a paycheck. Not like an investment, like a paycheck. Suddenly, your Social Security gets taxed too. Your Medicare premiums jump, because now you look rich on paper, even though you're just trying to live off your own savings. You built this nest egg for 30 years, and in your 70s, you're watching a huge slice of it disappear to taxes you never planned for. Here's the part that stings the most. This wasn't bad luck. It wasn't the market. It was a decision, or really a non-decision, made years earlier that quietly set this whole thing in motion. And here's what I eventually figured out. There's a window, often in your 50s and early 60s, where you can diffuse this entire problem. Most people never even know the window exists. By the time they find out, it's already closed. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't manage money for a living, and I'm not going to pretend I have some Wall Street pedigree. What I am is someone who spent a weekend a few years ago trying to understand why my dad's retirement account was suddenly costing him money in taxes he didn't see coming. That rabbit hole changed how I think about saving completely. I used to believe the whole game was simple. Put money in a 401k, let it grow. Don't think about it again until you're old. That's what everyone tells you. Save, save, save. Nobody tells you that a giant traditional retirement account can quietly turn into a tax bill with your name on it. I learned it the hard way, watching it happen to someone I love. So I dug in. I read the IRS rules. I talk to people smarter than me. And I want to walk you through what I found in plain English. No jargon, no lecture. Think of me as the friend who went down the rabbit hole, so you don't have to. Let me introduce you to two people. Let's call them Dave and Linda. Both are 52 years old. Both live in Ohio. Both make about $85,000 a year. Both have roughly $400,000 sitting in a traditional 401. On paper, their financial lives look identical. Dave keeps doing what he's always done. He contributes to his 401, gets his employer match, and never thinks about it again. Set it and forget it. It feels responsible. It feels safe. Linda does one thing differently. Somewhere around age 55, she starts moving small chunks of her traditional retirement money into a Roth IRA, a little at a time, every single year for about a decade. Same income, same starting balance, same market returns. But by the time they're both in their mid-70s, their financial lives look nothing alike. One of them is dreading every January. The other one barely thinks about taxes at all. Here's the first thing most people never really absorb. A traditional 401k or traditional IRA isn't fully yours. Not in the way you think. When you put money into it, you skip paying taxes today. That feels like a gift. But it isn't a gift. It's a deal. The government is saying, fine, don't pay us now, but you will pay us later. And we get to decide the tax rate when that day comes. You have no idea what tax rates will look like in 20 or 30 years. You're making a bet on a number you can't see. Your traditional retirement account has a silent partner. And that partner is the IRS. Here's the metaphor I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video, because it explains everything. Imagine your retirement savings has to pass through a toll booth before it becomes truly, fully yours. With a traditional 401k, you drive up to that toll booth in your 70s. And here's the cruel part. The toll booth doesn't charge you a fixed price. It charges you based on how much traffic is behind you. The bigger your account has grown, the bigger the toll. 30 years of compounding growth means a much bigger bill waiting at that booth. The exact thing that makes you proud, watching your account balance climb, is the same thing that makes the toll more expensive. With a Roth IRA, you pay the toll early while your account is still small. You pay it, and then you drive through completely free for the rest of your life. Growth, withdrawals, all of it. No more booths ahead. A Roth conversion is simply choosing to pay a small toll, now instead of a giant one later, while the road behind you is still short. This is the part almost nobody explains clearly. Once you hit age 73, the IRS requires you to start pulling money out of your traditional 401k and traditional IRA accounts every single year, whether you need the income or not. These are called required minimum distributions. If your account is small, the RMD is small, no big deal. But if you spent 30 years being a disciplined saver and your account grew into $800,000 or $900,000 or more, your required withdrawal each year can be enormous. And every dollar of it gets taxed as ordinary income, the same as a paycheck. That forced withdrawal can push you into a higher tax bracket. It can trigger extra taxes on your Social Security. It can even raise your Medicare premiums through something called IRMAA, which is basically a surcharge for looking wealthier on paper than you actually feel. A Roth IRA has no required minimum distributions during your lifetime. None. The money can sit there, keep growing, and you decide if and when you want. That's freedom that a traditional account simply doesn't give you. Here's what nobody talks about. The years right after you retire and right before Social Security and RMDs kick in are often the lowest income years of your entire adult life. That gap, sometimes 5, 10, even 15 years, is the cheapest window you will ever have to convert money to a Roth IRA. Most people waste it completely because nobody ever told them it existed. Let's make this real using Linda. Starting point, age 55. $400,000 in a traditional 401k, roughly a 7% average annual return. Year 1, age 55. Linda converts $30,000 from her traditional account to a Roth IRA. She pays ordinary income tax on that $30,000 now, while she's still in a manageable tax bracket. Her remaining traditional balance keeps growing, and so does her new Roth balance. Year 5, age 59. Linda has converted roughly $150,000 total, spread out year by year to avoid jumping into a higher bracket. That converted money has already started compounding tax-free inside the Roth. Year 10, age 65. Linda has converted close to $300,000 over the decade. Her Roth IRA alone, thanks to years of tax-free compounding, has grown to roughly $420,000. Year 20, age 75. Linda's Roth IRA has continued compounding, untouched by any required withdrawals, and has grown to well over $1 million, completely tax-free money. Now compare that to Dave. He never converted anything. His full balance stayed in the traditional account, growing the same way. But every dollar of growth carries a future tax bill attached to it. When his required minimum distributions start at 73, he's forced to withdraw large amounts every year, taxed as ordinary income on top of his Social Security. Over the following 15 to 20 years of retirement, factoring in ordinary income tax rates on those forced withdrawals versus Linda's tax-free Roth withdrawals, the gap between what Dave keeps and what Linda keeps can realistically total more than $100,000. When his required minimum distributions start at 73, he's forced to withdraw large amounts every year, taxed as ordinary income on top of his Social Security. In some cases, especially for people who convert earlier and more aggressively, the gap is even larger. Let that sink in. Same income, same starting balance, same investment returns. The only difference was when the tax got paid and how much traffic was already at the toll booth. Read that again, because this is the whole video in one sentence. It's not about how much you save. It's about how much you actually get to keep. Here's what nobody talks about, and I mean nobody. Financial media spends all its time telling you to save more, contribute more, max out your 401k. Almost nobody talks about the exit. Almost nobody talks about what happens on the way out of these accounts. The conventional wisdom is defer taxes as long as possible. But deferring isn't the same as avoiding. You're not skipping the toll booth. You're just choosing to pay it later, when your account is bigger, when your income might be higher because of Social Security, and when tax rates themselves might have changed. The uncomfortable truth is this. For a lot of disciplined savers, being too good at saving into a traditional 401k actually creates a bigger tax problem down the road. Nobody warns you that the very habit you're proud of can work against you if you never diversify how your money is taxed. So how do you actually survive this and come out ahead? I think the honest answer is that you don't need a perfect plan. You need three simple things. First, start paying attention to your tax bracket, not just your account balance. Before you convert anything, know roughly what bracket you're in this year. And don't convert so much that you jump into a much higher one. Small, steady conversions almost always beat one giant conversion. Second, look for your low-income years. If you retire before Social Security starts or before a pension kicks in, those years between jobs and before required withdrawals are often your golden window. That's when converting costs the least. Third, give yourself permission to not do this perfectly. You don't need to convert your entire account. Even converting a portion of your traditional savings over several years can meaningfully shrink your future tax bill. Progress beats perfection here. If you're feeling behind or like, this is one more thing you should have started years ago, take a breath. The toll booth analogy works in your favor too. Even a partial toll paid early is better than a full toll paid late. It's never too late to convert some of it. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, here's your move. Consider putting new contributions directly into a Roth 401k or Roth IRA now, while your income and tax bracket are likely lower than they'll be later in your career. Your mindset shift. You have decades of tax-free compounding ahead of you. Time is your biggest asset here, more than any single dollar amount. If you're in your 50s, this is genuinely your power decade. Look closely at Roth conversions in the years leading up to retirement, especially any low-income gap years. Your mindset shift. You're not just growing your money anymore. You're deciding who gets taxed on it, you or your future self at a bigger toll booth. If you're in your 60s or you're a late starter, don't assume it's too late. Even a handful of smart, smaller conversions before required minimum distributions begin at 73 can meaningfully soften the blow. Your mindset shift. This isn't about maximizing everything perfectly. It's about reducing the size of the toll you'll eventually have to pay, even a little. And for anyone listening who feels behind no matter their age, remember this. According to the Employee Benefit Research Institute's 2026 Retirement Confidence Survey, only about 6 in 10 American workers feel confident they'll have enough money to live comfortably in retirement. It's about reducing the size of the toll you'll eventually have to pay, even a little. You are not alone in this. Confusion about this stuff is the norm, not the exception. At the end of the day, retirement planning isn't really about chasing the biggest possible number. It's about deciding, as clearly as you can, who gets to keep what you build. Every dollar you save has two possible futures. One where a big chunk quietly disappears at a crowded toll booth in your 70s. And one where you pay a smaller, honest price early, and then drive the rest of the way free. You can't control tax rates 30 years from now. You can't control the market, but you can control how much traffic builds up behind that booth. And when you choose to pay, that's not a guarantee of a perfect retirement. It's just a quieter one. And honestly, quiet is underrated. If this helped untangle something that's been confusing you, consider subscribing. I'm going through this stuff one video at a time, trying to make it make sense for people like us. And if you know someone sitting on a big traditional 401k who's never heard of a Roth conversion, send them this video. It might be worth more to them than they realize.